The views and opinions of this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which you should carefully consider prior to trading. We saw pressure in the grain and oilseed trade. Cattle found a little bit of green on the screen. Hogs under pressure, though, too. Crude oil down, dollar index higher, stocks higher as well. What do we make of the markets on Columbus Day, Monday? Let's talk about it. Joining us now for market analysis, John Heimberg with Total Farm Marketing. John, hope you had a great weekend, and it looked like Columbus Day. I'm still getting used to trading markets on Columbus Day, with it being a federal holiday. It just felt like the holiday wasn't too kind to the grains and oilseeds in particular. Wheat, soybean oil led to the downside to start the week, John.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start out with that market first off. On that wheat market, we got some rain forecast here for the Central Plains that can help get that winter wheat crop off to a pretty good start. So I think the market was pricing some of that in today, and that side, as well as, we got to keep an eye on this U.S. dollar index. Another higher day today, 103 and change in terms of its basis points now. That's a heck of a run in that dollar index. There is going to be a point here when this market starts saying, hey, the U.S. dollar is putting some price against those other commodities or other prices against the global side. So maybe that was a big factor. Broke some technical side. You saw wheat really sell off. I do think that was maybe help push corn, but at the same time, corn and soybeans. Continue to look at the forecast here in the Midwest. Things have been very good. Did see a little bit of rain in some areas over the weekend. But I was on the road this week, out to Waverly, Iowa, and back to here to West Bend, Wisconsin, and a lot of beans were gone and a lot of corn ready to go. And I think that's just a big factor in these markets right now, is the fact that, number one, we got good yields for the most part. And that's weighing on us with harvest pressure as guys are just kind of moving right along here, getting the harvest done. We'll see the next round of numbers on that tomorrow because of the holiday. So we're curious to see where the progress is on the harvest so far for U.S. corn as well as soybeans.
Yeah, I'm thinking that everything I'm seeing and hearing, soybeans, and to your point, a lot of beans gone. I got to think we're going to be 3/4 done with soybean harvest here, and then corn's going to be playing a little bit of catch up. But really, that weather outlook, to your point, just looks friendly. I mean, dry, a little bit of cold weather moving through early this week, a little more fall-like, but all in all, it's given us the opportunity to get this crop off the field and trying to find storage for it, or marketing it in town, or whatever the case is. And, I think that harvest pressure with the lack of other news, South American weather looking better, just feels like it's giving us a reason to pull back a little bit here across the grains and oilseeds, John, without any other fresh fundamental news.
Yeah, and you got to look at the weather for the harvest and put that into perspective where we are. Everybody's thinking, okay, here comes October. It's the insurance rally and all those different terms that come out. And we seasonally do see strength in October into November. But we've got a good harvest going, good bushels coming. Weather's good. So that's just going to keep a limit on any rallies that we have here. And, I was actually a little surprised on my drive home on Saturday, and the number of fields that nobody was working in. So that just tells me, number one, they were probably getting done with beans and had to figure out what to do with them, or what corn they got in. They were getting full, and there's no urgency because the weather doesn't look like we're going to lose 3 weeks here because of wetness or anything. And, just talking to a couple of my clients today, it's like, yeah, it's actually been beautiful. We get a good day's work in, we get to bed, we get up in the morning and go. We're not trying to run the clock here because, it is only the 14th of October. And, we're going to be 50% or pushing 50% on that corn harvest, after last week's weather. So I think that's all kind of coming to place here. And I keep hearing really, really good yields just from talking to people. There are obviously spots that there's going to be a concern in, but at least definitely in the western half of the Corn Belt, things are strong. The USDA reflected that on the report. Almost kind of thinking maybe that 0.2 of a bushel number was not high enough. We'll find maybe that out in November. The worst part is all that stuff's going to be moving, and it's going to plug up the cash market here, and we're going to have to see how that can weigh on prices as well. But I'm thinking in some of these areas, we're going to see some pretty good corn piles this year, just from when guys are talking about how much the crops improved even over last year's numbers. Did have one client in the southern Wisconsin area who was up 15% year over year. in terms of his yield. So it just tells me some of the things I hear out there in terms of the harvest, and that seems to be the most predominant theme is it's a really good crop, especially in corn. Beans could have been better, but it was still solid.
Yeah, and I think all in all, as we see some of this continued harvest pressure, lacking something of bullish type of story that really finds its way into these grain markets, I think it just reiterates something we've been talking about for several weeks, is that risk management is a key here. Whether you love it or not, you need to be thinking about that and doing something if you're in a position where you need to do something with your grain marketing, John.
Yeah, and that's something that concerns me with the carry in the market. I've been talking about March puts for a while. I actually did some hedging out into July and May today in terms of the corn price today. And actually, if you look at the market's closing values today, the pressure really came in July, May, and those months, even in soybeans. Some of that's probably reflective of the South American weather improving. We're looking at planting pace in Mato Grosso jump 9% week over week as the rains continue to be forecasted. So one analyst group saying forecast rains for the next couple of weeks could be 130, 140% of normal. So it looks like their dry period concerns are over. Obviously, those are longer range forecasts. We'll see where they are, especially in soybeans. Though right now, Brazilian beans for the spring are coming in a lot cheaper than U.S. beans. And China's been an active buyer of those spring beans, for that new crop soybean. So that's something that maybe that price needs to come down a little bit here. And we saw that reflected today as well in both corn and soybeans, as again, the July, September, May windows is where the selling pressure was. So as a producer, if I'm putting things in the bin, you've got a lot of risk out there carrying the market. Obviously, South American production coming at you. Does our demand window close? Things of that nature. You need to have some type of floor if you're going to take the risk on of storage, in my mind.
John, let's go over to livestock trade. Let's start with cattle. A little bit mixed on the futures on the day Monday. I was just looking at last week's negotiated cash cattle trade, 80% nearby delivery, 20% for deferred delivery. So not sure if we'll pick up any notes there as we go through the week when it comes to cash activity and how that influences the cattle market. But all in all, I'd say cattle performed the best out of the ags to start the week. Anything big you're watching there?
Retail values is something that's got on my radar again. All of a sudden, choice carcasses at midday today were up to 312. That's a heck of a run in about 2 weeks' time as we're, a little bit under $3 here, just like I said, a couple weeks back. So good, strong week last week and good start to the week this week. Kind of makes you wonder where that demand's coming from in that regard. That's at least going to maybe keep cash markets supported. We'll just have to see how much activity there is, just given the way the market is, like I said, with that heavy front end trade in terms of the cash market overall. Chart wise, we're at a crossroads point here. If you draw a line over top the highs for these, for December or February or even October, we're kind of hitting that area. We've had a good run, $13, $14, $15 in these futures. I've been doing some hedging here using put strategies just to get a floor, maybe seal in some of this. I know the next 30 days until we get through the election, we could have a lot of volatility in the marketplace in general. So it's a spot that want to make sure you capture some gains. If we can't push through this area and re-rotate it over, you can see a pretty big technical sell-off again very quickly. Possibly get us down into the 180 handle on that December contract. I wouldn't surprise me that you see that type of correction because really, we've been moving since early September pretty much straight to the upside without any form of correction. And we maybe just do here, not saying that it's going to end the market, but it's that time of window here and seasonality and things of that nature. We could see that. So again, producers, I just warn you to be on guard a little bit in that regard.
Hogs as well. I know the October contract off the board on Monday. I was asking you about this before we went live, and you mentioned to me that I was looking at December hogs finishing about $9, $10 lower than the October contract on Monday. But you said traditionally, when you look at history, that's normal, right, John?
Yeah, I went back and looked through that. I had a conversation with one of my clients about that exact same situation, and we looked through the last handful of years, and that $8 to $10 range is kind of where that spread would fall here at October expiration. Now, that doesn't mean December can't step back into that gap and close it up here now that October is off the books. We'll have to see what are the biggest things we need to see. cash market index was down a little bit today. Where's the retail side? Now, one thing we haven't touched on today, too, a little bit of Chinese stimulus concern out there again this morning. That's what weighed on crude oil, weighed on soybean oil, probably helped weigh on the hog market as well today in that soybean complex. We just got a lot of concerns. Obviously, if the government's pumping that much stimulus into the Chinese economy, how good is the Chinese economy, in that regard? So the lack of true what they wanted to see today, again, kind of weighed on a few markets overall. And I think the hogs were a little bit set for that. The funds are sitting very long the hog market, about 80,000 contracts as of Tuesday. And then we've also had a very good run without a really good correction there as well. So we may be poised to take a little money off the table here in the short term, especially with the close that we saw in that December contract today.
John, good thoughts as we close it out today. If folks want to reach out to you for a conversation there at Total Farm Marketing, how can they get in touch with you?
Give me a call, 1-800-334-9779. Shoot me an email at johnh@totalfarmmarketing.com. And then don't forget the website, totalfarmmarketing.com.
John Heimberg, always good to talk with you. Thanks for joining us and sharing some perspective on Monday's market action here today. We will talk to you next week. Thanks so much.
Sounds good. Have a great week.
Make sure to subscribe to the Market Talk YouTube channel. There, you can watch our latest interviews with the top market analysts in the country, find bonus content, and much more. Just go to youtube.com/markettalkag and hit the subscribe button, or you can search for Market Talk Ag on YouTube.